All right, what is up, everybody? Joseph here with you, Rad-Parenting, hanging out in the room with
Anea Bogue.
We are here. We're hanging. First thing we want to let you guys know is today's show is awesome. We had skateboard legend Steve Caballero come in here, and I kind of freaked out because he was my guy when I was growing up, and to have him come all the way from San Diego to do our show was awesome. We're giving away a signed skateboard. Did you know that?
That's really exciting.
Yeah, he signed his skateboard for us, and all you got to do is go to our Facebook page, Rad-Parenting Show, and you'll see, like our page for sure. Got to do that first, and then you share the episode of Steve Caballero, and then we are going to pick someone by, I think it's May 1st, to win the signed skateboard of Steve. So that's pretty rad.
It is.
We're
doing big things here.
We you know what? I got to say, are you a little bit blown away by the response that we've gotten from people?
I am. I really am. I mean, I was just down to do this because I think, I love talking about this stuff, but to have the response we've been getting is really exciting.
I think the thing that has tripped me out the most is the people that, especially with Chris's interview, they were like, I'm a Foo Fighters fan, but I came in just to hear about Chris, but now I'm following you guys. I subscribe to the show, which I want all you guys to subscribe, please. Oh, also, if you subscribe, write a review. We have like almost 15 reviews on iTunes now, and we love that. That gives us more visibility on there. But the main thing is the people that came to check out Chris, and now they're listening to the show and finding out about different ways to parent.
Thank you for shipping.
There you go. So with Steve Caballero, before we jump into this interview, you could tell right away when he came in, when I described, he's like a little Buddha in a way.
It's incredible. There's so much going on in this incredibly small package, but he is like, what an extraordinary human being and what an incredible path he's had.
And I want to say, when you guys listen to this interview, we went around the block in a lot of different topics. I mean, we talked, obviously, him growing up and his parenting.
Yep.
And also he talked about, he's a grandfather now. And also he touched on religion. He's found God, and he makes that clear. And I love how he just does not, I'm going to talk about that right now.
Yeah. Well, and we want people, this is part of what we say even about parenting, is we want to give our kids space to become who they are. And it was, definitely interesting for me. But I love that he just brings it, and you know what you're getting, and he's a great guy.
Yeah. And we got to thank him again for being on the show. And you're about to hear a real journey, because this guy has gone everywhere and anywhere, and also a real personal journey that he talks about. Mm-hmm. So this is Steve Caballero on Rad-Parenting. Enjoy it. Let's do it. Rad-Parenting. Steve Caballero, our guest, my friend. We've been friends now since I was probably 13, 14 years old. Anea, I introduced her to your world of skateboarding via my love and friendship of you. I was like, this is my buddy. He's coming up from San Diego. First thing, everyone that's listening to the podcast, this guy he drove from San Diego to Los Angeles in traffic, spent how many hours?
Over 3 hours.
Yeah. If you live anywhere in this general vicinity, you know what a big deal that is.
And I told him this right when he got here. I'm like, look, I respect you, and I feel so bad that happened that I am tomorrow, Friday, going to leave LA at say 4:30. And I'm going to take the 101.
4:30.
Not even to visit you, but just to put in 4 hours. I'm going to park in front of your house and say, hey, man,
dude,
are we cool now?
Right here.
Yeah. Yeah. So
you don't have to do that, Joe.
When you reached out to me and said, hey, man, I listen to your podcast. I'd love to be a guest. I right away reached out to Anea, and I said, look, this is an individual that has been so inspiring to me my entire life through whether it's skateboarding, music, art. I mean, you ride motorcycles. You're always fixing a truck. I saw a video the other day that when you unloaded, before you skated a ramp and did a trick, they made a joke because he unloaded his pants. He's like, hey, I'm going to take out what's in my pants. And there was bolts. There was a wallet. there was art paraphernalia. Like he was just pulling all together.
The life of Steve.
The life of Stevie in his pockets.
Love it.
So just an individual for me that's influenced me, and I know the people who are listening to the show, such a huge impact on their lives in so many different ways. So thank you so much for coming up. I'm going to let Anea lead this one because
we've got to, because you're just going to ask about skateboarding.
Yeah, I'm just going to start talking about whether it was the Hester series or skating Pomona, Upland. I have so many questions there, but we won't go into that because today we're talking about being parents.
Yeah, and initially I was sort of like, okay, I can probably make this connection, the skateboard. And it was so easy once I started reading about you. 3 kids, right?
Yes, correct.
And I immediately, and anybody who would read about you, like skater of the century, according to Thrasher Magazine, that's extraordinary. And Joe knows this about me, I'm so drawn to people who have created extraordinary paths for themselves. And I come from, a mindset that is really, to quote Michael Mead, I believe in the inner genius that each and every individual comes to the planet with, if you will. And so I think as a parent, and for the parents listening, one of our big objectives is, how do we help our own children to find their extraordinary, or to create their own extraordinary path? So I'm really curious as a parent about how you have, first of all, how did your parents contribute, do you think, to you creating your extraordinary path? And then I'm going to ask about how you've done it for your kids.
Okay, well, I think the way that my parents contributed to who I am today is the way they supported me as far as everything that I was into, the passions and stuff. I'm the youngest of 5, so I didn't grow up really with my older siblings because they were a lot older than me. So I kind of always felt like I was the youngest and like only child. So they spoiled me. Whatever I wanted, my dad got me. And if I wanted a skateboard, he'd buy me a skateboard. If I wanted a bike, he'd buy me a bike. I think that was his way of showing his love towards me, and him not being around because he was always working and everything. But, they supported me as far as like, they saw that I was into bikes, they bought me a bike. They saw that I got into skateboarding, they bought me a skateboard. And they saw that when Winchester closed in 1980, I asked my mom, can I build a ramp in my backyard?
Wait, what's Winchester?
Winchester Skate Park was where Steve and I met. And one of the best skateboard parks at that time that was built.
All the parks started closing because what these investors saw in the late 70s all over California as the next big thing, and it was really a fad. They lost a lot of money on poor skate parks being built, liability, and just not that many people. I remember going to the skateboard park to Winchester or Campbell and being maybe the only person there.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I'd go there when it was raining.
So it's sort of
I would
like,
go to the park when it was raining.
Wow.
I remember
just to hope it might dry up.
But you know what? And you know what's so funny? I remember that, and we'd all play Missile Command.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah.
I remember we'd all sit in the pro shop.
Yep.
And it was kind of like the episode that we've done, the Hangout Spot. You know how we had this episode that we haven't aired yet where it was all about having a positive environment for young people to hang out in. And thinking about it now, Anea, it's similar to the show we talked about. You had these 2 older guys that ran the park that were cool. They weren't like bad dudes. They were super cool.
Dan and Dave.
Dan and Dave.
Nice.
And they were very loud, and they would call you out on your crap if you were a kid. They wouldn't let you skate without your gear on. Only skateboard parks, seriously, that if you could not skate without a helmet on, they were very strict with that. And for me as a skater, it really taught me like the etiquette. They were in touch with all the kids. But like you said, if it was raining, you would still have a bunch of kids that had nothing to do, but we'd still go there and hope
they had a place.
They had a place to hang out at.
Which is awesome, which I think doesn't exist enough today, and is part of the problem, because we're not, as human beings, we're inclined to be part of something, and we'll find it one way or another, even if it ends up being a negative example out in the world. So
my parents, the way they supported is my mom would drive me to the park and drop me off, and sometimes she'd just wait in the parking lot until I was finished.
So
while you skated.
Okay, but here's the thing, and I think Joe and I have talked about this before too, in terms of like this whole overscheduling your kids, and what I heard you say very specifically was, they saw I was into bicycles, they bought me a bicycle. They saw I was into skateboarding, they bought me. It sounds like you were taking the lead. So as opposed to, I think what a lot of us tend to do as parents is we say, I'm going to put my kid in like 6 different things that I think would be good and see if anything sticks. And then we end up overscheduling our kids, and the kids are sometimes doing it because they want to please us, not necessarily because they want to. And I hear you saying they were sort of watching to see what you were drawn to, and then they supported it.
Well, I think that was the case only because they weren't really into much stuff.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, my dad was a golfer. He loved to play golf, but he never pushed it on me. Like, hey, son, I want to take you golfing.
Right.
That was kind of his thing.
Right.
My mom was just a housewife, and she didn't have like a job outside of that, and
her
she
job
didn't
was
have
you,
it.
And
her job was
her home.
Yeah. So a mother and a housewife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when the park closed, your parents continue supporting you because the ramp that you built in your backyard was legendary in San Jose.
Yeah.
Which I never got to skate. I'm so bummed.
Who did that? Who paid for that? Who built it?
A friend of mine that I skated with, named Norman Poon at Winchester. He was a local there at the skate park. Once the park closed, his dad helped pay for the wood, and then me and my friends, Gavin and Corey, and a couple other guys, built the ramp in the backyard.
At what age?
Let's see, it was 1980, so I was like around 15.
Yeah, that's
15,
impressive
16.
to me. Like,
And Anea, just
Yeah.
so you know, this isn't like a little ramp, like put a piece of plywood on a toolbox and here we go. This is like big. How many feet wide?
The ramp pretty much took up the whole backyard. I mean, there was no backyard after that.
And
it
how
was,
high?
It was 9 feet high and it was 12 feet wide, and it went from pretty much the fence all the way to the house.
so also creating hangout environments,
There
right?
you go.
And there's another hangout. It's moved over to Steve's place.
Well, so a lot of people would come over and hang out and skate, and my mom loved it because she knew where I was
Right.
all the time, you know. So
That goes right back to
yeah.
creating that environment for your kids to be at, safe environment where they can be themselves. But you
I'm
still
going to tell you that I'm thinking there's parents out there going, safe is a stretch when we're talking about skateboarding
Yeah.
and being on a ramp. But I mean, I guess, at least she was right there if one of you took a tumble and broke a leg or something.
I love that you just said tumble and skateboarding. I don't think I've ever said
Tumble.
Hey man, did you
What do
take
you
a
say?
tumble? You say usually we say you take a slam.
yeah.
Okay, so, I'm showing my limited...
Moving forward though, Steve, if anyone falls today when you're skating at Encinitas, I want you to say, man, you took a tumble.
That was a nice tumble you took there.
That wouldn't
Sonny.
sound like hardcore enough.
One more thing I got to throw for the listeners out there that are, skateboard ramps. It was different times with, having that type of responsibility and, kids skating in your backyard. But I do have to ask you this. Did the kids that came over, everyone respected your parents' rules, I assume, of like being cool and
Pretty much. I mean, we kind of stayed out of the house and
Yeah.
everyone just kind of hung out in the backyard all the time. And yeah, I mean, obviously if you didn't respect the home, I mean, you weren't allowed.
Yeah.
But, I even had my dad had printed up these liability waivers, just like the park. We copied the
Nice.
parks one,
Nice.
just because it was a new thing. So we weren't sure if people would sue us
Sure.
if they got hurt. So I was just kind of looking out for my mom, and so I had everyone sign waivers and stuff.
For your career at that point, though, the park closes down. It's safe to say that this ramp that your parents supported and let you have in your backyard,
Yeah.
would your career maybe have stopped as a skateboarder at that point?
Not necessarily, because not only were we skating my ramp, me, Gavin, and Corey, and a bunch of other locals like the Bosches and stuff, we would go look for pools. We'd go skate banks. We'd just look for all these street. There was a place called the Scurbs where there was a curb that we'd skate, a red curb. So we not only, skated my ramp, but we went and ventured out, and we just try to look for having, fun
Well, I love
everywhere we could.
And I love that too, because what I hear you saying, and I think there's a couple of obstacles that you've faced in your life that you've overcome, is I feel like we so frequently as parents want to shelter our kids from failure or from obstacles. And what we end up doing is preventing them from developing those sort of internal muscles to be able to overcome obstacles. So for you, it was also, so the skateboard, the skate park, right?
Winchester.
Closes, you find a way around that. We're still going to find a way to do this because we love doing this.
Right.
Scoliosis, which I know is another thing
Yeah.
that was an obstacle for you that for some people, never mind you personally, but a lot of parents would have been like, nope, not doing that. You got scoliosis.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying like, you find a way around it.
Yeah, it was more of like an outer appearance, more than just kind of physical
Limitation.
for me. It didn't really affect me as a person. I mean, I would have like pinched nerves every once in a while, like if I lifted something wrong or twisted a certain way. Through skateboarding, I found out what a chiropractor was.
Nice.
Because I never had the back problems until I started doing things that were as aggressive as skating.
Right.
The one beauty thing that I learned about skating is it really taught you what it was like to fail, because you have to fail to succeed at skating, because the tricks don't just come. You got to learn them and you got to practice them over and over. But what I did find out is if you have a lot of passion and you have a lot of drive, that you can reach these goals by as much effort you put into it. So I learned a lot of life skills just through skateboarding that I apply to everything that I do now.
Right.
Even with parenting and everything, and
So I want to hear about that part. I want to know how, because I think that, all three of us in this room, and Joe and I have talked a lot about how we faced adversity in our own childhoods. And we talked recently about chores and this sort of thing. And we came to the conclusion that we're really, again, limiting our children. So how have you taken your own extraordinary experience and these life lessons and applied them to your parenting in terms of passing those on to your kids so that they have them too?
Well, parenting is a
workout.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of balancing your life, and also you have to be on the same page as your wife. There's a struggle there as well, because I may want to parent my kids a certain way, and she wants to parent them a certain way, and we're always battling it out. We've been married for 10 years, and we still battle that out.
Yep.
So there's some things that she will do that I don't approve of, and there's things that I do that she doesn't approve of. So we have to try to find that balance.
That makes me feel so much better hearing you say that. Because seriously, sometimes Karen and I, whether it's, Joe, when you make the point, does it have to be so loud? And I go, that's the only way I'm going to get him to listen to me. And she's like, I don't think we have to yell. And we have that, because I'm a loud talker guy, and Karen's more of a, hey, let me hear what you have to say. Then I'm going to say some stuff. And then sometimes for me, I'm just like, if we just turn up the volume a little bit, we can get what we need done. So there is that back and forth between parenting.
I also think that there's the benefit too of like each child is going to respond differently to different things.
I agree with that.
And so to have like whether it's both of your parents or other adults or the two guys down at the skate park, different things are going to resonate, and it's good to kind of have the variety, if you will.
You definitely have to have a variety of parenting skills, because I have a 6-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, and my 8-year-old son, the volume doesn't have to turn up. When I'm talking to my daughter, I turn that up, a couple notches, which kind of bums me out, because that's the only way I get heard from her. But like, I have a daughter from a previous marriage who's 18, and I feel bad for her. And I've told her sorry many times, because she was kind of like the guinea pig of my parenting.
Yeah.
And the way I parented her was what I learned from my parents. So not only did I parent her with good things, I parented her with bad things.
Sure.
And I learned a lot of things that my parents did to me that were bad, that I resented and hated, but ended up doing to my own daughter.
Yeah.
So I'm always constantly apologizing to her, and because my parents were spankers. So Kayla got spanked when she was younger, and she got spanked a lot, and in the end, it didn't really change anything. It only had her resent me. So with my second marriage and my other kids, I haven't laid one hand on them.
Yeah.
And they've turned out amazing.
And I think that it's the other reason that we say, and we were just talking this morning about how we're going to do a show called "So You're Pregnant, Now What?"
Yeah.
Because I always, and every time I speak to groups of parents, I'm always like, it is never too early. Like from the time, I speak a lot about girls. So from the time she is in the womb, here are things you can start thinking about and preparing for. And so often we're sort of just thrown into it, and we are doing our best. Our parents did their best.
Yeah.
But wow, would it ever be amazing if you could do a little more work on the front end so that you'd be happier with, how it ends up rolling out.
It takes a long time to learn how to be a parent, and I'm still working on that. I've been a parent for 18 years, and I still need a lot of work.
Yes, we all do.
One of the things that Stevie touched on is that analogy that you and I always talk about is the parenting toolbox.
Yeah.
You don't really look into it until you find out you're going to be a father or a mother, and that parenting toolbox is given to us from our parents.
Our parents, yeah.
And as Steve mentioned, yeah, exactly. And as Steve mentioned, the tools that are in there range from